the Vancouver Comic Arts Festival, and today there are over 90 exhibitors here. There are over 45 booths, and I am looking forward to meeting some really cool comic artists. We've also got some interesting panels ranging from history of comics in Canada all the way to awesome female heroines. There are two really awesome things about this convention. Number one, it is free. It will cost you nothing to get in. And the other great thing about this convention is that, you know, in most conventions you have DC, Marvel, and Dark Horse kind of take the floor. But this is so many more independent comic creators. So let's go meet some of them.
Hello, I'm Katie Shanahan.
And I'm Stephen Shanahan.
And we are comic-making siblings from Toronto, Canada.
It's a humor fantasy comic about a grumpy old wizard. It's his 211th birthday, and he'll do everything he can to ruin the surprise party because he's a jerk. It's the beginning of a new series. We have the second book on its way, so keep an eye out for that over at SillyKingdom.com.
We're also excited that it's been nominated for 2 Joe Shuster Awards, the Dragon Award for Kids and the Gene Day Self-Publishing Award.
Hi, I'm Evan Weston. I do a comic called Knife Stone. It looks like that, sort of. It's at knifestone.net. It's all ages, kid-friendly fantasy, you know, kids going on adventures, monsters, pirates, wizards, magic. It's a lot of fun. It's a good excuse to tell all the coolest fantasy stories.
Hi, I'm Jeremy Sawatsky. I'm the creator of Purple Soul, which you can read at dogfoodcomics.blogspot.ca. It's a fantasy comedy about evil demons, baked goods, and responsible brothers and irresponsible sisters.
And all of the best stuff that I've loved has been fantastical. I mean, I think most of us could probably agree that The Last Airbender, Avatar: Last Airbender, best TV show ever. And that's fantasy to me. I mean, it's monks and wizards, and like, that's it. And Bone, oh my God, Bone is so good. I can't believe we haven't brought it up yet, but that is the best thing. And for me, when it comes to making it, I sit back and go, you know what the best part of the Lord of the Rings was? The Silmarillion.
Yeah.
And that's my favorite chunk of Tolkien right there. I mean, I have yet to dig into all 13 volumes of the history of Middle-earth, which are sitting on my shelf collecting dust. But that was the best part of me. And when you realize that, it's like, I just have to do this now. That's like, reading Silmarillion is like reading the Bible with elves in it. And that would be so much cooler.
They actually went to the government and said, you know, newsprint is rationed, but we want to try to do this and compete. We need to buy a color printing press, and we need to get extra newsprint rations. And so they shelled out on this very expensive printing press for a newspaper in Cleveland. And then the government basically said, comics. So basically the entire Canadian golden age of comics only lasts about 5 or 6 years, and then basically disappears, and then all that's left is just reprints of American comics for most of the 50s.
I am standing with Ken Bosom, who gave the panel on Canadian comics history. You also mentioned 3 Canadian superheroes, which were the Iron Man, Nelvana, and Freelance?
Yeah, that's right.
Okay, that's correct. And can you tell us a little bit about those 3 superheroes?
So I actually sort of talked about them a little out of order yesterday. So Iron Man was the first guy. So Iron Man was the first Canadian superhero. He was created by a guy named Vernon Miller. And was published in the first Canadian comic, which was published by Maple Leaf Comics out of Vancouver. So they produced Iron Man, who was sort of an undersea superhero, and he was only the 3rd kind of undersea superhero to be created in comics, in North American comics anyway. The second to appear was actually Freelance. He became one of the more popular characters of all the Canadian superheroes during the war. He was actually the only one that had his own ongoing title that was just his name. And then Nelvana came along about a month after that. And so it's very quickly, they sort of all appear. Like Iron Man appears in March of 1941, and then Freelance is July, August, his issue is dated, and then Nelvana comes along in August. And that's all based on cover dates, which are usually cover dated 2 or 3 months in advance. So the comics would have appeared like a month or 2 before that. So Nelvana is actually the first superhero in Canadian comics. And she was created by a guy named Adrian Dingle, who went on to become a fairly well-known painter in Canada, and his wife Pat was one of the few women that worked in Canadian comics during the war. And so Nelvana was a superpowered Inuit sort of demigoddess who was called down to earth by an Inuit sort of shaman to help Canada during the war and fight the Nazis.
I'm standing with Camilla Derrico, and you were at the Female Heroines panel yesterday.
That idea of strength is not that they kick ass, it's just that they just don't show their emotions. And I can't relate to that at all. I'm an Italian, all emotion, all the time. I'm like a roller coaster.
I was saying in the panel how when you have a strong female lead, they take on this, the idea that they can't cry because they have to hold in their emotion, and to be a strong character you have to be sort of above that, above crying. And I think that it is about being a well-rounded character, one that can feel all emotions in a realistic fashion. And I'm sure that there are a lot of women out there that don't cry, they hold it in.
Yeah.
Exactly. But if for me, I can't relate to those characters. And my character Tampopo, she actually starts off in the series as without any emotions, and so I can design a character like the most stoic, blank slate. Exactly. And what I did is I wanted to take this 14-year-old girl and take her from being completely emotionless and transforming her into a rich character by experiencing all these emotions. And in the first book, she experiences sadness. So I'm actually showing a character crying, overwhelmingly so.
Yeah.
And maybe it's also a European thing, but in Europe, when somebody dies, when they just wail, and they're not afraid to show emotion. And so part of me in Tampopo is actually showing that as well, and showing a character who just overcome by grief. Exactly. And then of course, I will take her through happiness, and because
it's not just sadness.
Exactly. And I think you can have a strong female and have her laugh. I mean, why is it okay to laugh but not to cry? I don't know.
It's a weird double standard.
It is, yeah.
So this is the end of day one, and Angela Melick pwned at Machine of Death.
This is your chance, Miles, to increase your considerable lead or completely choke through your team. One of the two. The choice is yours, Miles. 1 minute on the clock, please, Earl. Miles, are you ready?
Go on.
All right, and go.
Helicopter.
Yeah.
Poison.
Yeah.
Lost map. Wrong map. Old map.
Oh,
I remember not being able to draw that one.
I'm bad.
Falling tree branch.
This is the second and final day of VanCAF. I'm very excited because I get to meet Barry Dirch, Chef Jacques, Alina Pete, and Emily Partridge. We get to go see some improv. We've got lots of things going on today, and I'm gonna, spend more time meeting some independent artists.
Hi, my name's Lucy Bellwood. I am a cartoonist from Portland, Oregon. I have a couple of comics at the show today. My main series is called Baggy Wrinkles. It's a comic series about being a tall ship sailor in the 21st century. I work on big replica boats and sail around teaching kids about maritime history and rigging and all that cool stuff. And I thought it would be neat to start a comic series about that. And then I just came out with my first long-form comic, which is also autobiographical. It's called True Believer, and it's a story about having the guts to do what you love. It's about my first year in Portland and how I decided to make the jump to be a full-time cartoonist.
Hi, I'm Jason Turner, and these are my comics. I have projects like this that I did when I turned 40, and I did a comic each month for the year leading up to my 40th birthday. I have this comic, True Loves, that I co-write with my wife, and I do all the drawings, and it's a sort of a low-key, funny romance story set in Vancouver.
My name is Van Sunapa. I've been working on my artwork for over 16 years. I'm 27 years old. I mostly influenced in the manga style of Japan. Most of my artwork is digital. I do have some marker style, but I also have an online web comic.
My name is Jacob Samuel. I do a webcomic called The Daily Snooze. I do single panel gag cartoons, so I just pretty much write jokes, and I supplement that with pretty unartistic drawings, and then hopefully they make people laugh. I'm debuting my first book, which is called I Can't Believe We Had to Die Just to Make This Pointless Book. and there's 2 trees on the cover.
Hi, my name's Sam Alden. I'm from Portland, Oregon, and my comic is called 8th Grade. It's a middle school soap opera, slice of life sort of thing. I've been working on it for 3 years. I just graduated from college 5 days ago, and now I'm at this comic convention in Vancouver, which is sort of like Portland, but bigger.
Hi, I'm Steve LeCouliard, and I do a comic called Much the Miller's Son. It won a Zarek Grant in 2010 for this full-color volume that I've got here. I've been doing it for about 4 years. It's all about the misadventures of Robin Hood's least merry man. I've been a part of the Vancouver comic scene for the last 5 years or so.
I'm standing with Torin and Kevin from Caustic Soda, the podcast. Can you guys tell us a little bit about what your podcast is about?
Our mandate is kind of to do science and history and pop culture about gross and disgusting and morbid things. So it's a weekly podcast. We basically take a topic every week and just kind of dissect it.
Boiling, frothy, bubbly, fun pile. Our slogan is hard science from soft people.
Also portrayals of cannibals, vampires, werewolves, ghouls, and zombies.
What? Oh, well, that's not a definitive list. I mean, you still got trolls, you got, like, kobolds, you got some room to maneuver within that definition.
And I don't know if anyone remembers, but Marvel in the 1970s called the deceased mind-controlled followers of various Haitian supervillains the zuvembies.
Because you couldn't put a zombie in it.
Remember, yes.
Why do they come up with zuvembie?
Probably had a meeting.
Yeah, the T-Rex is saying, "What is that?" Of course, referring to the TARDIS coming in from behind the Triceratops' shoulder, and he hasn't seen it yet. So that's where we're leaving off.
All right.
All right. Yes, and I'm actually. Oh, okay, yeah. Oh, awesome.
All right. So now that we have this scene, what's gonna happen next? What's gonna happen next, guys? Besides me becoming a man. I mean, what's going to happen next? Do you...
Muzzle tough. Is this the point at which that impact occurs? Do you think? Yes. I think that's where we were...
So that does really limit the options because, we have to have the impact. Now, first thought, he kills the Triceratops.
Oh, man, he is such an expendable character. Well, even as much as...
Let me bring it here. Comedy, tragedy, plus time.
Plus time.
Plus the land before time.
Yeah. You're okay.
Everyone here is wrapping up at VanCAF. It was an amazing convention, and it will be back next May, so check it out. This is Genevieve, keeping it geeky.